We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Friday, August 1st here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Niall Song.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Happy August 1st as well. And Brooke is also with us today.
Yes, hello, good morning.
Good morning. Both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Friday, which means we've made it to the end of the work week. And what better way to head into the weekend than by shining a light on something uniquely Korean? Now, when people think about Korean culture, the first things that usually come to mind are K-pop, K-dramas, and of course, food, all major sources of national pride and global fascination. But Niall, today we're taking a bit of a detour from entertainment and food and diving into something that might not seem as flashy, but is just as important. Can you tell us what we're talking about today?
Right, and you guys thought K-pop was trendy? K-garbage system is the new thing.
K-trash.
Right, Korea's waste management system is so great. And when I first moved back to Korea for university, this was kind of crazy and a culture shock because the recycling system was very intense and I didn't know what went where. Sometimes I'm still a little bit confused, but it's so great because you classify everything so detailedly that you can actually make the most of it. And I thought if US and China decided to adapt this because they're such huge countries with huge populations, that this would maybe flip the environmental crisis altogether.
So it is quite confusing, but hopefully today's discussion will kind of resolve that confusion as well. So Brooke, can you walk us through how Korea's waste management system actually works, namely its volume-based waste system or pay-as-you-throw system? And from a personal angle, what was your own experience like when adjusting to when you first came here?
Well, basically to sum it up, in Korea, you can't just throw your trash away however you want to like you can in other countries. I grew up in America and most families just throw everything into one big black garbage bag and that's it. There is no federal law requiring Americans to sort their waste in any specific way. Of course, there are some households that do decide to recycle, but it is not everyone. In Korea, however, it is mandatory. You have to follow the rules. What you have to use are these officially designated volume-based bags. They're called 정량제 봉투, and they're a part of the waste disposal fee system. And by fee system, I mean that you do have to pay for these bags. You can easily find them at supermarkets or in convenience stores, and they're quite cheap. You can get them for 200 to 400 won. That's about 50 cents, or you can buy them in bulk, get them for a few dollars, and it's really quite convenient. If you don't use them, however, there are definitely fines. You can get them at different volumes depending on your needs. And it can be confusing at first, like we've been mentioning. Like I said, I grew up in America where this is not the norm. So it was definitely a culture shock when I first came here. And even after 10 years of being here, I still have to look things up sometimes because as a foreigner, you're always more sensitive. You don't want to make mistakes. So I always try to make sure that I'm following the rules correctly. But I got used to it, and I think everyone can. I think it's a great system.
You kind of also mentioned this, but like there's also things you can't and you can throw out in those trash bags.
That's
so
right.
From my personal experience, I tried to throw out my bed frame recently.
Ooh.
And it turns out like when I went to buy those bags, they wouldn't sell it to me right away because they wanted to make sure I had those disposable stickers as well. So it has those, like the ones that are furniture, appliances, they need to have a separate disposal sticker as well. So there's things to remember. So Korea is often seen as a front runner when it comes to the volume-based waste fee system. It's basically a pay-as-you-throw model, right? So can you break down why this system is considered so effective, Niall?
Why don't we do a little dive into history? Back in 1995, Korea became the first country in the world to implement a nationwide volume-based waste fee system. And over the past 30 years, this system has reduced waste by 160 million tons with an estimated economic value of 45 trillion won. And back in 1991, the average waste generation per person was 778 kilograms. And after the system was introduced, that amount was cut in half. So it's very effective.
Mm-hmm. So when Korea first introduced this system, did it face any challenges or public resistance, Brooke?
Well, I think when there's any nationwide change, there's going to be some pushback, some growing pains. People were worried about the financial aspect, that people wouldn't be able to afford it. They were also worried about this putting too much burden on the consumer, on the individual, rather than the government. And of course, there were concerns about bad actors, people that would try to go around the system. And that did and does still happen. There are still people that try to use fake bags, or they try to illegally dump their trash. It happens, but there are punishments when that occurs. But I also found out in researching for this show that there is a reason why there aren't many trash cans in Korea. And this could be a big shock for some foreigners. When my family visited Korea, I remember we were walking for 20 minutes with, cups in our hands, and they kept asking, Brooke, where are the trash cans? Well, I found out it's because of the waste management system. When it was first introduced, people would try to get out of the pay-as-you-throw system by throwing all of their household trash into the trash cans on the street. So the authorities said, okay, we're going to take those away, reduce the number of trash cans to encourage people to change their waste disposal habits. So yes, like I said, there definitely were some growing pains in the beginning, but now it's just second nature. It's a part of everyday life in Korea.
Even as a Korean, I feel like it's quite frustrating to go about my day and not be able to find a trash can. I feel like the downside of that is that I get why they did that now, because you explained this, but also I feel like it could lead to more littering in certain places as well.
That's right.
So aside from the volume-based waste fee system, which we know is a big part of Korea's approach, Niall, what are some other key systems or strategies the country uses to manage waste?
Right. In addition to the volume-based waste system, another aspect gaining attention is how Korea handles food waste. And unlike many countries abroad, like the United States and United Kingdom, where most food waste end up in landfills, major cities in Korea require residents to dispose food waste in designated volume-based bags as well. The waste is then recycled into animal feed, fertilizer, or biogas. And these days, there are also machines that ferment or dry up food waste and are also widely used. I personally use one as well. It's so convenient. And the sales of these devices have significantly increased in the past few years. Some local governments even provide subsidies and support for purchasing them or install them directly for you. So I think this is a great move towards more convenient, efficient food waste disposal.
So I've actually never used these machines. So how are they? Do you think they're efficient?
They're very efficient. There's different types of it. Just to point out, it is illegal to use a garbage disposal that gets attached into the sink. But I use one that's biodegrading. So you feed basically your pet to eat up the food waste, or there's ones that grind it up and then you throw it away in general trash.
Does it smell at all?
It smells slightly like hot garbage, maybe a little bit of cup noodle smell, but it's not bad because you close it at all times after you put it in. But when you open it, yes, because it's food waste.
Right.
Food waste that smells like ramen. I don't know. I feel like that's not too bad.
It's not too bad. It's actually not too bad compared to what I used to do as well.
So waste sorting is another important part of Korea's waste management system. So Brooke, can you tell us about Korea's approach to waste sorting and talk about how important it is in everyday life here?
Sure. I didn't know about those machines either, so I think I'm learning a lot today, and I hope you guys are too. So let's keep it going. I'm going to walk you through the waste sorting here in Korea. We've talked about these volume-based bags, but it's not that simple. It's not like you can just put all of your garbage into that one bag. There are actually 4 main categories. You have your general waste, your food waste, recyclables, and large or special waste. So let's go through each of them. Your general waste, that's like your everyday household items. Then you have food waste, which might sound self-explanatory, but sometimes it's not. So for example, you cannot put eggshells in your food waste bag. You also can't put bones. So if you have some delicious Korean fried chicken, make sure that you are not putting the leftovers in that food waste bag. So just little tips that you might have to go through if you're not familiar. Your next one will be recyclables. This is, paper, glass, cans, metal. That all has to be sorted accordingly. And lastly, we have large or special waste. And you actually mentioned this with your bed frame. That does not fit into any of the other categories. So because it's a special or large waste item, you have to actually apply for it. You typically have to get a waste sticker and schedule a pickup for someone to to come get that waste from in front of your place. You cannot just put it outside. Do not recommend that. You will get in trouble for it. They will fine you for it. So just do your best to follow the rules. If you're a foreigner and you're unfamiliar, there are many resources online that you can go to so that you can learn more about the waste management system. I promise you it's a lot easier than it sounds.
So our company is actually pretty serious about waste sorting too. It's something we try to practice every day here at Arirang. So I put together a quick video to show how we manage it around the office. So let's take a look. Here at my company, we take waste sorting very seriously. As you can see here, we separate trash into several categories to keep things clean and eco-friendly. So dirty straws go into this general waste, and paper cups go over here, as well as paper cup holders, and then plastic cups will go into here. It might seem like a small thing, but waste sorting helps the environment and everything adds up, so recycle right. So waste management is such an important issue, not just for Korea, but globally, especially as we deal with climate change and growing urban populations. And Korea, as we've been talking about, has taken some pretty unique steps from its volume-based trash bags to its incredibly detailed recycling rules. And to get a broader sense of how people actually feel about these systems in practice, we asked through a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel which part of Korea's waste management system viewers find most effective. So let's take a look at what they had to say. So the majority of respondents, 60%, point to this country's thorough recycling system. Another 20% highlight the standardized pay-as-you-throw garbage bags, while 14% said the food waste disposable system stood out the most. And the remaining 6% chose other aspects of Korea's approach. So to learn more about how someone from a different country thinks about waste, we're going to talk to a young American to ask how waste is handled back home, how seriously people there view the issue, and what they think could be improved going forward. And that conversation is coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
We're joined today by Shayla Kulubal, who has been living here in Korea for 3 years now. So hi Shayla, thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So how is waste typically managed in your country?
Yeah, so in America, it really depends on the local government's participation with private companies and how they want to regulate their waste systems. And so each state will have a slightly different operation of how they want to collect their waste. I have lived in a couple of states, so generally it's the same, but there are times when the specific county do stop working with certain private companies. And so certain counties will stop doing things like recycling, which is a little bit odd. But currently my family and I live in Houston, Texas, and there's just two different types of waste management system. One is your general waste, which you would put your food and everything else together in a plastic bag. And the other would be recycling. Now, recycling is a bit weird. I feel like different counties do it differently and there's no real structure. So you would just put everything in a plastic bag and put it in its designated recycling bin for people to pick up. Now, we would get fined for things like if your trash can is dirty or if there's maggots in it, but there's no really strict regulations on how to recycle or how to throw away your trash.
All right, you just mentioned this a little bit, but let's get into it. How much public awareness or concern is there in America when it comes to waste and environmental issues compared to Korea?
Ooh, I feel like it's still steadily growing in America, but before a couple years ago, there was a huge wave of environmental crisis where people would start getting tote bags and stop using plastic straws and opting for paper straws. But recently, I feel like there's been a little bit of a decline, but Korea really shows up every day compared to America through their actions. You have to recycle, you have to separate your food waste. Compared to America, if you don't, you're kind of fine at the end of the day. And I feel like Korea just does it a little bit better, whereas Americans were not strictly regulated. So if you're comparing America and Korea, I'd say Korea does environmental issue awareness a little bit more versus in America, it's just an option for people to do. There are some talks and conversations here and there, but it's not such a big impact for young Americans or even current generations to have the need to help the environment compared to Korea.
Well, I agree with your points completely, and thank you for your insights today. One last question for you. In your opinion, how could waste management be improved or developed further, either here in Korea or in America?
Yeah, so I think both countries could actually learn from each other. I feel like in the American side, they should look at what Korea is doing and being a little bit more strict with how people recycle and finding people for not recycling well. I feel like America should also start adopting the food waste management system and taking those food waste to local farms for compost or feeding it to the animals. That would really help the environment and reduce the methane in our air. And I feel like on the Korean side, Korea's already doing everything perfectly, in my opinion. But there has been an increase of foreigners coming to Korea and living here. So recycling is really daunting for them and really intimidating. If there is quite a lot of information, I feel like, on how to recycle, but it is still a bit intimidating. But still having a lot of multilingual help and visual aids would really suit more foreigners that come live in Korea.
So I hope our discussion today will provide that help for those viewers. So thank you so much for sharing your insight with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from a young person from America who shared her perspective on how waste is managed back home, the level of public awareness around the issue, and the changes they hope to see in the future. And that really highlights how different countries are tackling waste management in their own ways. So now I've heard that Korea's waste management system has attracted quite a bit of international attention. Can you share some examples of how other countries are studying or even adopting elements of Korea's model?
As a Korean national, I am so proud to talk about this because before Korea introduced this volume-based waste system, it actually looked to Japan for benchmarking. But afterwards, Japan municipalities began referencing Korea to improve their own systems. And other countries like Taiwan also introduced the volume-based system in 2000, inspired by Korea. Hong Kong also attempted to adopt a similar system, but due to strong opposition, it was indefinitely postponed.
So the thing is, it doesn't always work for every country. Like you mentioned Hong Kong, obviously Hong Kong has a very high density area, and also not all countries have the infrastructure that Korea does either. So but what about Western countries, Brooke? Have places like the US or various European nations looked to Korea's waste management practice for inspiration?
Well, first I want to zoom out a bit and look at the big picture. So globally, 1.3 billion tons of food is wasted each year, which is a huge and very concerning number. America, where I'm from, throws away nearly 60 million tons of food every year, and that's almost 40% of the entire U.S. food supply. So in contrast, if we look at Korea, the Washington Post actually really praised this country in its article titled, "South Korea Recycles 98% of its food waste. What can it teach the world?" And I feel like that title really exemplifies what we're talking about here today, which is Korea being a role model in this regard. And this article also mentioned that according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, up to 31% of all food gets wasted, which is enough to feed more than 1 billion hungry people. Plus, what's more is food waste is estimated to cause 6 to 8% of global emissions. So it's bad for the environment as well, which is why it's no wonder that people are turning to Korea for inspiration for how to fix this problem. So in America, we're seeing in New York, for example, they're trying out the pay-as-you-throw system. In France, they also had an article that called Korea the champion of bio-waste. What a title that is.
Yes.
And so they are starting to implement some Korean practices. And we're also seeing in Peru, in the city of Cusco, they are working with the Korea International Cooperation Agency to implement some composting facilities that are based on Korean practices. So I think what we're seeing from this is that even though this topic might not be as glamorous as K-pop or K-food when we're talking about the Korean wave, it is extremely important to talk about, and it's very influential. And I'm really glad and proud to see how well Korea is doing in this regard.
And when I threw out food waste yesterday, I was reminded how the system works, which is like from what I do at my place is that we tap a card and that unlocks the food waste bin. And once it's open, it measures how much I am disposing of, how much food waste I'm disposing of, and then the cost automatically is added to our building maintenance fee. So I feel like it's a pretty efficient way. Wow. So to wrap up our discussion today, waste management is an important topic because it's so closely tied to broader environmental challenges we all face. So looking ahead, Niall, what direction do you think Korea and really the entire world should be moving towards when it comes to tackling waste more effectively and sustainably?
Right. I do think while Korea is doing a great job, there are lots of bigger countries with more people, and they really need to get involved and set the example for the rest. And the system is currently great too, but in the end, we need to remember to reduce waste that we consume in general. So sustainable products for the long run would be the best thing for our environment.
I think that's great advice. Brooke, do you have any advice for this?
Well, it might sound cheesy or cliche, but I think it all comes down to you. It comes down to the individual person. It's kind of like voting. It's very easy to think, well, I'm just one person. Does my vote really matter? I'm just one person. Does my trash really matter? The answer is yes, it does. Collectively, it matters. So even if it's a little inconvenient, you should make those sacrifices for the better of the environment. Every time I have to sort my food waste, for example, you know, it's kind of gross, and it really makes you think about waste. Like maybe if I hadn't made too much of this, I would not have all these leftovers to throw away. It makes you think about how much you're using. And so as long as you change your mindset, I think we can all really help the world out.
So it's clear that tackling waste isn't just about keeping our streets clean, it's about protecting our planet and building a sustainable future for everyone. Whether it's through policies like the volume-based fee system, diligent recycling, or learning from different countries' approaches, every step counts. So we hope that today's conversation inspires you to reflect and take action this weekend on how each of us can contribute to reducing waste and protecting the environment, no matter where we call home. So we're also conducting a program survey that includes News Generation until August 17th to better meet our viewers' expectations. So please visit us at www.arirang.com or on the Arirang TV mobile app to share your valuable feedback. By participating, you'll also have a chance to win Bluetooth earbuds and exclusive K-pop merchandise. And this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back on Monday at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Niall.
No problem.
And Brooke.
Thank you. Today was very informative. I learned a lot.
Thank you both for coming in. And to all our viewers, thanks so much for watching, and we hope you have the best weekend. We are News Generation.